guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with my mid-month wrap-up for November. I'm a day early. It's the 14th I'm filming this, but it is Sunday, and I won't be able to film this until Saturday or Sunday of next week if I waited, so I am only talking about the first 14 days, so I have read 14 books, and I'm probably going to finish 2 by tomorrow, but those will be on my end of the month wrap up. So I have basically been reading historical or Christmas, and that's really all I've been reading this month, so I have some really fun books to get to, so I'll go ahead and tell you what I've read. The first book I read was The Picture Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I teach this every year to my honors 10th graders, and I read it along with them every year. I love this book so much. 5 out of 5 stars. I won't spend any more time on that. Then, one of my new obsessions is In Bed with the Devil by Lorraine Heath. This is book 1 in the series. I don't remember what the series is called, but I've read 3 out of the 4 so far this month. This one, our hero is a newly kind of Earl. He grew up on the streets after something happened. He doesn't remember anything about his past, and so he is discovered as a young boy, though, and is told that he is this Earl, and he was discovered, though, after killing his supposed uncle. And so he has a really bad reputation, and he doesn't believe that he's actually this Earl. He feels like an imposter, and he's trying to marry this girl that he also grew up on the streets with, who he's super protective of, and so this woman in society hears that he has killed someone. So she goes up to him and says, "I need you to kill someone for me," and he's like, "What?" And so he actually ends up agreeing to do it if she helps train his betrothed to be a lady, and so it's kind of like helping them get the person they want, which is one of my favorite tropes, and they end up falling for each other instead, and she's trying to deal with this person she wants dead, and then he's trying to uncover the secrets of his past. It's so good. I love this book so much. They're definitely not supposed to fall for each other, and he has a lot of trauma he has to go through because of what had happened to him, and he was in jail as a child, and he just has a really rough childhood, but I love the series so much. 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Meet Me in December. I listened to this on audio, and it was okay. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was just really nothing special. I just found myself listening along to the audiobook. Our heroine's a designer, and she teaches a lot of classes about design, and she meets this guy at this department store. It's in London, and she ends up like talking to him and realizes he's one of the owners because he's the owner's son, so he has like a really high position there, and they spend more time together. They help her put on a fashion show for her students, and they fall for each other, but it was just okay. Trigger warnings for infertility because she is infertile, and so she got out of a relationship when he figured out she couldn't have kids because he wanted kids, and so she is really sensitive about that aspect when it comes to relationships, and so it was fine. Like I said, it wasn't bad, but I didn't love it, so I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Harbor by Rebecca Weatherspoon. I read this one for reading Riley's favorite romances. I will link that vlog down below. This one is book 3 in the series, and we have 2 heroes and a heroine. The 2 heroes were in a relationship with this woman, and she was found dead in bed with our heroine's fiance. So they both realized that people they truly loved were cheating on them with each other and were dead. So it was really hard for them to grieve because they're angry at these people, but they lost people they loved. And so they have a really hard time overcoming this and end up tracking each other down and spending time physically with each other to try to mend this trauma they both went through and figure out how to have a relationship with all 3 of them. And I thought the dynamics between them were really interesting, especially with the guys. They don't live together and how it worked being in a relationship with 3 people. It is a polyamorous romance. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely recommend the series. I read book 2 and 3. I just need to go back and read book 1. Then I listened to the audiobook of It Happened One Autumn by Lisa Kleypas. Sorry, it just got really dark outside, so I was like, where did my light go? But this one is a historical romance. It's book 2 in the series. Sorry, I've read books 1 and 3, and then I went back and read book 2. This is Lillian's story. They're American heiresses, basically, and it's the 4 best friends in the books. And so she is the second best friend, and she has a younger sister, and they do not adhere to society's standards whatsoever. They will play baseball with the servants. I loved that scene in here, and the hero thinks that she's really annoying and insufferable, and he can't stand the fact that she doesn't follow society's rules, but they spend more time together, and he seeks her out, and it is just so good. I give this 5 out of 5 stars. I'm really excited to read the 4th book, and I wish that I had waited to read Devil in Winter because I got so much background about Sebastian in here that I would have loved to have before reading his book, but I already knew what his character was going to do, and I wish I didn't because he was in here too, and he seemed so like smooth and suave until the end, so I really enjoyed this one. Then I listened to Dashing Through the Snow by Debbie McComber. This one I listened to as my comparison of the Hallmark movie versus book. I did a video on that, so go ahead and check it out, and this one was was really cute. I gave this book 4 stars. Our heroine is trying to get to Seattle, and so she goes to buy a plane ticket and she's not allowed, and she's like, what the heck, I need to get there, I need to see my mother, and so she ends up renting a car instead. There's a reason she was on the no-fly list though, so the FBI are after her, but she has no idea, and she has to share her rental car though with someone who's also going to Seattle for a job interview. There's only one car left and they both need the car, so like fine, we'll drive together. So it's a road trip romance, forced proximity, lots of good banter. He is going for a job interview. Like I said, he's very stoic and it's so good. She adopts a puppy along the way and they just have the best banter, and I thought it was really adorable, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I did like the movie even better, so like go watch the movie please. I think the movie added a lot more to it. She was pretty young in this one. I think she was like 23. She was a college student and she was working at a diner and just got time off to go visit her mom, and they fall for each other and it's adorable. I thought it was a really fun Christmas romance. I would definitely recommend. Then I read The 12 Dates of Christmas, and this one is by Jenny Bayless. I listened to this book on audio and it was so cute. It does not have that good of ratings, but she is single and she decides to, like with a dating website or app or something, sign up for 12 dates. So it's pretty expensive, and she like reiterates, I'm paying for this, I need to go on every date. And so she goes on dates with all these guys, and they're like Christmas themed dates. So they cook dinner one night, they go ice skating, there's a escape room, they make a gingerbread house competition, and the dates are something else. And there's a really sweet romance in here that is a second chance romance. It's pretty obvious who the romance is going to be with from the start, but I absolutely love this. I loved all of the characters in here and how our heroine just wants to find love, so she goes on all these dates and she kind of trusts sometimes the wrong guys, and she is also dealing with someone from her past, and I thought it was really cute. I do think like I wish more focused on her actual romance with the guy instead of like all the dates she goes on, so it kind of lends itself more to women's fiction in that sense, where the romance kind of takes a back seat until the end because she's too busy trying to find romance with these other people. But I still really enjoyed it and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was so much fun as a Christmas romance, so Christmassy, like so Christmassy. I loved it so much. So check it out if you want to. So it's definitely a closed door romance, and I feel like I usually don't like this kind of romance as like a contemporary, but because it's Christmas, I loved it. I don't know why, but I just love generic traditionally published romances when they're Christmas. Like, I need it. It's like a Hallmark movie. I loved it. Then for that video, reading Riley's favorites, I read The Doctor by Nikki Sloan. This is an ex-boyfriend's dad romance, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a lot of fun. I really liked the dynamics between the doctor and our heroine, and how things got pretty hot and heavy really fast, but they genuinely just really liked each other and wanted to be around each other, even though they knew it was totally taboo and off limits. And the conflict was kind of obvious. I mean, they were gonna have to like confront the son about the fact that they were dating each other, but I just wish there was more to the plot than their romance. Our heroine was training to be a vet, and I really wanted to see more of that, and maybe more of him being a doctor. I feel like in The Pool Boy, which I read before this, there was a secondary plot about their professions, and I really, really loved that. It added so much more depth and substance to the story, and in this one, it was just the relationship, which I really liked, but I wanted a little bit more to the plot. That's why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but if you want like more just like sweet taboo romances, I think you would like this. Like, the only taboo nature was the fact that they had an age gap, but it was only like 18 years because he had his son really young and had a really bad relationship with his son, so that added a little bit more of a I can't tell him or betray him because he's just learning to trust me again. But I enjoyed it. If you like Birthday Girl, I think you would like this book. Then I read Christmas in the Scottish Highlands, and this one read like exactly like a Hallmark movie. Our heroine is an elementary school teacher. She lives in her grandmother's house alone because her grandmother passed. Her dad's never around. I'm pretty sure her mom passed away. And so she's riding her bike home and runs over this old lady who lives in like this castle basically in town, and the woman ends up injuring herself. I think she like sprains an ankle or something, and so our heroine ends up offering to move into the castle with her to take care of her, to make sure she can get around okay, and she'll give her house to a family in need at school who needs it for the holidays. And so she spends time in this castle helping this woman. The woman writes this Christmas list, and our heroine decides she's gonna make it everything on there true for her, and one of them is for her family to come together for Christmas, including her newly discovered grandson. So her grandson and her daughter are estranged, and her grandson didn't know about her until recently, and he's this grumpy like lawyer kind of type businessman. I don't remember if he's a lawyer or not, but he was a businessman, and he figures out someone's staying with a grandma, and he's like, she's gonna take advantage of you, hide all your jewelry. And so he comes to visit, and it's their romance and like literal Hallmark setup. It was so cute. It was a Scottish romance in a small town with like this lavish castle and this old lady, and it was just adorable. There was a pet donkey. I think I gave this 4.5 stars. It was just everything I wanted in a Christmas romance, and it like played out like I thought it would. He was super stoic and grumpy, and they ended up falling for each other. She was putting on the nativity play at school, and it was just like Christmas perfection. I loved it so much. Then I read Between the Devil and Desire by Lorraine Heath. This is book 2 in the series, and this one is Jack's story, and our heroine's a widow. So her husband, I believe, was a duke, and he dies, and so her son's now the duke, but he's too young, and so I guess like in this time period, she couldn't just like be fine with her son. So her son needs a kind of like ward until she gets remarried, and so the husband in his will makes Jack Dodger the ward. And Jack Dodger grew up on the streets with our hero from book 1. He owns a gambling hell. He is not like high class whatsoever. He's rich, but he's not in high society. And so our heroine is like, what the heck? Who is this man? How does my husband know him? She's also harboring guilt over her husband's death because she thinks it was her fault. He was much older though, by at least 20 years. And so she is just trying to help her son out and like raise her son, and now there's this man who's in the picture who owns everything and has to help them. And so Jack is like, I don't know what's going on, but okay. And so he ends up taking on the position and role. They spend more time together and they fall for each other, and it was so good. But Jack experienced a lot of trauma in his past. He went to jail with the hero from book 1, and he was definitely assaulted both before jail and in jail as a young child, and that was very traumatizing to him. And he sees a little fear in the son, and he is like, why does a child have this fear of adults? He's like, that doesn't come out of nowhere. What happened? And so he's trying to uncover just what happened to the son. I loved his bond with the son and how close they get, and there's a puppy in here, and this was just so good. 5 out of 5 stars. Like, Lorraine Heath can do no wrong. This was amazing. I love their romance. The heroine definitely tries to push him away, but there's an undeniable attraction. It was amazing. You have to read the series. Then I read A Timeless Christmas, and this one is actually published by Hallmark. This was my second video for comparing the Hallmark movie to the book, which is coming out later this week, so keep an eye out for that. But this one I ended up giving 3.5 stars. This one, our hero is from the early 1900s, and he time travels to present day, and his mansion is currently like a historic place that is a museum, and tours are given. And so the heroine acts as his maid on the tour. She has her PhD in history, and she knows all about his life, and so she thinks that he is there to play the actor of Charles Whitley. He's actually the real Charles Whitley from the past, time traveling to her time. And so she helps him like get on his feet, shows him around town, and finally realizes like, oh, he's telling the truth. He is from the past. Shows him like the grocery store and pizza and like all these modern things, and he was an inventor in the past, so he's fascinated by technology in the present day. They slowly start to fall for each other, but he's determined to get back to his time. And so I thought this was a lot of fun, though it just like, it wasn't anything super special, and his obsession with getting back got really annoying because of the reasoning he wanted to get back was really annoying. And I was like, you're gonna put that over a romantic relationship and a person that you're really falling for? He was very frustrating, but I still really enjoyed the story, so I gave it 3.5 stars. A fun Christmas romance if you want a little time travel mixed in. I finally read The Third Pole, which is a Mount Everest nonfiction book. It's been taking me like 2 months to read this book because the beginning was pretty fascinating. So they're trying to find the body of Sandy Irvine. I think that's how you say the last name. So him and George Mallory went up in the 1930s to Mount Everest trying to be the first people to reach the top. They both disappeared, and so George Mallory's body was found in the 90s, and I think it was the 90s. They still haven't found Sandy's body, and Sandy is rumored to have a camera on him, and so that would be proof if they actually made it to the top of Mount Everest or not. So our narrator, author, is going with these men to try to find the body, and like that's not okay. Like they'd have to go off the trail and super dangerous. They had to find people to take them up there. They were thinking of taking a drone, and we get too much in this book. Like we get him going to look at museums full of Sandy's things, talking about Sandy and George's like trip up there and what happened, and then he goes to when he's up there, which is like the day Everest broke, where there were like tons of people who died because there's just this long line of people trying to get to the top of Mount Everest. And so then he decides to go through all the people up there who almost died or did die and all their background, and then him trying to go up there and him deciding whether they're actually gonna go to the top or not, or just stop at the place where they think the body is and not go to the top, even though they spend months trying to get there. And then what like Everest does to people and how people will like literally not care about people dying on the mountain, and then going back and forth between his journey to the top and George and Sandy's journey to the top, and there's just too much going on. I was like, I can't keep anything straight, and we all know Sandy's body's not found. It still has not been found historically. Like I already knew that, so I was like, why do I even care? Like I know you're not gonna find the body, so why do I care? You going off the trail, breaking all these rules, putting the Sherpas' lives in danger. I just hate how Sherpas are treated on Mount Everest. So the guy writing this book made me mad. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I definitely wanted more, but I love Everest stories and reading about going up the mountain, so I still wanted to read it. Then I read Surrender to the Devil, which is book 3. This is Franny's story. She was supposed to marry the guy in book 1 but didn't, and she falls for the Duke, who is the brother of the heroine of book 1. They meet at their wedding, and it's so good. Like, he's instantly captivated by Franny. Franny was captured and sold to a brothel, though, when she was very, very young, so she has tried to overcome that in her life, and all the men in her life are very overprotective of her because they all grew up on the streets together, and she is opening up an orphanage. She helps take in these boys who need a place to stay, and it's the cutest thing. I love her relationship with all the boys she helps and her desire to help them, and the Duke hates how she puts her life in danger, and it's really fun, him trying to be okay with her doing that, but also trying to protect her, and they're falling for each other, but she knows he can never marry her because she is low class and he's a Duke, and it's really good as well. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars too. It was just so good. I love this whole series. You have to check it out. Like, I can't rave about it enough. Then the last one I read, I think, is The Holiday Swap. I haven't put it in my phone yet because I recently just finished it, but it is a Christmas romance, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It is twins who swap lives, and it's baking, so like, I loved it. One lives in their small town and owns the bakery and runs the family bakery. The other one lives in LA and is a co-host of a baking show, and so they have to swap lives because the baking show sister gets a concussion and loses her sense of taste and smell, and like, that's like 90% of her job with cooking. She has to be able to do that and host the show, and she hates her co-host, but between them they're competing for the final one spot of hosting the show after this. So she's like, I can't risk this. So she's like, you have to switch me places because I know you can bake and like do this. And so they swap places. They fall in love while they're swap places, and I know people don't like how messy the ending is, but I loved it. Nothing was like picture perfect. They both ended up really kind of messing up each other's lives, but then it ended up being for a good reason. Like, good things came out of it, like, that had to be done, and so I loved it. One of them was falling for a firefighter, one of them was falling for a physician's assistant. It was so cute. I really love the romances, and I love the small town vibes, and then it was just so good. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Such a great Christmas romance. And those are all the books that I've read so far in November. Let me know what you've read, or if you've read any of these. I would love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.